Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are here for the final session of the day, even though I wasn't there for the entire day. I'm really happy that we've had so many great speakers and wonderful guests and attendees. So, welcome back. You're in for a treat because now we're going to be talking about speaking with purpose, harmonizing your professional and spiritual journey. And we have Claire Kelly and Juliette Noske talking to us about experiencing the impact of setting heart-centered intentions and using intuition to bring about lasting change. So I'm really excited for this because I love using my intuition, and I'm really excited for what we're going to be hearing here today. So first, we're going to listen to Claire. Claire Kelly is an Irish lady passionate about bringing the power of intentions and intuitions to life. Previously a tech leader, executive coach, and founder of Good Intentions, she now blends the power of scent with her coaching sessions to spark profound change. So, Claire, talk to us. Take it away.
Ooh, thanks for that nice introduction, Nicolene.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I am an Irish lady. So, what do I have? 10 minutes? I hope I don't go over gift of the gab and all that. So, yes, I am going to do something strange, which is not strange for me. I want you to imagine that I'm in bed. That's weird. No. Well, I'm not in bed right now, but about when was it? 2018. I was lying in bed as you do sometimes, and you wake up at what, 3 in the morning. And I had written, it was around about 3 years after my mum had passed away. And she was a big influence in my life, most definitely from a spiritual perspective, for sure. And I obviously missed her. And I was also feeling quite, I guess, like what I was doing didn't really matter very much. Like, I was working as a marketing consultant. Um, and I do feel there is obviously a difference you can make in that world, but I'm like, but but really, like what am I doing? Am I just helping people send a lot of emails? Is that what I do with my life? And I think I was having an early midlife crisis or something. But I do feel, and I'm sure people will agree, when it's something like a powerful moment, like losing someone you love happens, it makes you reassess your own life in different ways. Anyway, so it led to me awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd written this personal mission statement. I don't know, Nicolina, if you want to show the screen, I sent you a link. Uh, and it was through reading the book, you call that Seven Habits for Highly Effective People. There I am now, very happy. Look at me. Out in my favorite forest, having the crack. That's how you sum up my life. So if you scroll down just so you can see this personal mission statement. Mm. So this is the screenshot of the top of this. And on my website, I give a link to the tool that I used to create this back then. And essentially, this is how I just needed to get my purpose and what I really wanted for my life out into the world. So speaking with purpose, this is how one of the pivotal moments in my life, because I use this link that you see in this, and it asks you a few questions, right? And essentially spits out a page of your answers. And I found it because it was an exercise in that book, Seven Habits for Highly Effective People. And he was talking about how can you prioritize your life if you don't know what your own values are, what your own priorities are. And I'm like, actually, for once in my life, I might do the exercise in the book. And I did, and this was the result of it. And talk about a moment of change. Um, and the summary of it at the top, it's not what I do, it's how I do it. This is still my purpose, because I believe your spiritual and personal, professional career, whatever you want to call it, is comes down to that. You can create light or you can create darkness, no matter what you're doing. You can be a carpenter, you can be a CEO. And I would reckon a lot of people on this call would kind of agree with that. So I wanted to put it into practice though, and I feel this is the big difference in my life this made. I expressed, how important is our expression, Nadine? Very important. I expressed what my heart wanted. And it was honestly like it has completely changed my life. That was 2018. So I was lying there and I knew I wanted to bring more heart into what I did. But ultimately, this is about I wanted to bring more compassion into our real everyday lives. And a lot of it came from how I saw my mom working with customers in our fruit and vegetable shop. And it wasn't as much about the potatoes that they were buying. Yes, we love potatoes. It was more about the conversation that they were having. They were getting to be seen. And to me, that's what any organization, any business can do, is help each other see each other and hopefully have a bit of joy doing it. So yeah. So again, I'm in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, having written this, and it lit a fire in my heart and in my life. And I was like, well, I have to do something about this. Thank you. I don't need it anymore, Nicolee. I have to do something about this because I have to. Like, if I want this to happen, I have to do something. So I emailed the, it's really funny because it's true. I emailed the CEO of where I was working at the time, Salesforce, Mark Benioff, who is a billionaire. And I have, I've always had a bit of gumption, is that the right word? For just, well, heck it, just go and do it anyway. Like, why wouldn't I ask him for something? And but I really honestly believe it's because I put that intention. And basically I was lying in bed and going, it was like the two angels or devil on your side, and I was like, write the email. No, why would I write an email to this guy? Like, what would he even want with it? You know, and your doubt and fears on this side, and love and compassion and everything's possible is on this. And this side's like, go, 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 Claire. And I literally am just like, going, this is crazy. I don't, well, why not? Why wouldn't I do it? So I wrote the email, and I had worked in email marketing. So I had a little bit of experience. And the subject line was something like, Irish lady wants to meet her boss to re-innovate service or something like this. But essentially it was about, I know we have volunteer hours, I know we do this and we do that, but I believe the greatest change we can make is in how we treat each other. And imagine if everyone took a moment to set an intention and become like aware that there's human beings at the end of everything, no matter how far away you are from them, you're still impacting them. So that was essentially it. And I told the girl that was living with me, and she worked in Salesforce as well. And she was like, "What? What did you do that for?" But it happened, and 2 days later, he got back to me himself through about 10 different other people that had passed it on. And I got to meet, unfortunately, he was away when I was in San Francisco, but I got to meet his right hand man at the time. And he was like, oh, this is interesting. And basically, I just like me as well, I start things before I'm ready. And I was like, what am I even going to do with all if I get permission? But that's where the intuition comes in. And I'm like, no, you got to do it now. Do it now. So anyway, I was more or less getting permission to talk about this amongst the teams. And since when was that? 2018, I think I trained over like hundreds of teams in setting intentions. And really that leads me to I guess the main heart of what I want to share is that I am addicted to intentions because I read so much about it in, you know, manifesting, all that kind of jazz. Um, but it's not a gimmick, it's real life. It's like, and something I find really interesting, and I love the work of Gary Zukav, who did The Seed of the Soul. Has anyone read that? It's really good. But his work, that book is very clearly defines what I believe in, which is your intention is an energy that you bring to what you do. And when you can open your heart, literally. And I know, Juliette, you're going to talk about this too. That energy goes with what you do, and especially in your words. And your words are your emails and your meeting invites and everything else too. And I also started doing it with websites, by the way. I used to be a website developer, and I used to put it in the code of the website that what is the best thing could happen to someone because they bought this product, and allow yourself to imagine like what good thing could happen to someone because they buy this pen. Oh, they could write a poem that they send to someone they love, or they could, whatever. And I think our brains and society have made us used to thinking the worst thing that could happen. And there's some weird saying, and I don't know where it comes from, beware of wishful thinking. I'm like, no, that is not true. Like, if you're attached to the outcome and you get really upset because you wished for something and it didn't happen, then that's a different thing. But let your imagination go, because I've had amazing things. Like, that's only one. I've had lots of other amazing things happen because of that. But the main thing that I come back to always is that no matter what I'm doing, my intention is my like quality of consciousness that I bring to what I do. And it takes a moment. Like, if you think about what that means, it's it's not an out tension. Some people say that, like, my intention is my goal. I want to increase the conversion rate of our customers by 17% in X amount of time. That's a out tension. That's like a, I don't know, like a more, do you know what I mean? But whereas an intention is your responsibility, and that's all you can really bring, because the change might happen for someone else. Hopefully it does, and hopefully it brings a benefit, but it's much more likely if your heart is in it. And that's what that mission statement was all about, is take a moment to breathe. And literally that's what I was doing with leaders. Anybody, was getting them to spend, like, and I'm talking like when you've got back-to-back meetings and people go, I've no time for that. Don't be ridiculous. Time to be like, to think about someone. And a sad thing happened. The further I went up and the people that I connected to, this is, it makes me sad. It actually does. The lady, one of the ladies, one of the highest up ladies in that company said, Claire, I 100% agree with what you're saying, and I don't think anyone would disagree. She goes, but the reality is, like, at this level, people don't have feelings. And I went, what? But I'm like, a certain part of me, I think there's a truth to that.
There's
Or
such a
there's,
shocking statement. Claire, I'm just trying to keep us on time.
Yes.
So
yeah. How long have
Nicoline
we
is
got
too
left?
polite to interrupt you, but I'm an Irish lady as well, so I'm not too
Yeah.
polite to interrupt you.
So what,
So
how long
you
have
need
we
to
got?
hand over to Nicoline, and she's going to take it from here.
Okay.
Yes. So, Claire,
Wonderful.
I have a question for you, because what I loved is what you said about letting your imagination go.
Hmm.
And really, when you talk about intention, that you really let your imagination go and just let it take you wherever it wants to take you. What would
Hmm.
you say is a good way to set an intention?
Oh, this is a good question. There was three elements I would put as necessary in my own view of doing it. And the first one is to stop, to pause. Because it's never, to me, it's not from the mind, it's from the heart. So the heart, literally connect to your breath. Take a moment to pause and breathe. And then in that, I believe your heart begins to open. And then what I would like usually do is I would say to people, like, let's say, for example, today, which I was setting an intention, and before this, for anyone listening, I write it out because I feel that it needs an expression. Because if you don't, because a lot of people used to say to me, oh, but I always wish something good happens for someone. I'm like, yeah, okay, but that's not as powerful as, actually writing, and I speaking it. I record them sometimes into my phone. It's like when you have a hose and you've turned the water on and it just goes you know, of its own, because there's no focus with it. But if you write it out and express it and even speak it with your own voice and energy, it becomes a thing in the universe and then goes out,
Right.
you know. So it's,
Yeah.
to me, it's really, people are like, oh, I don't have time to do that. And even though I do it like over and over again, I could write the same intention. To me, it's important that I write it or I speak it.
So
Yeah.
basically, it's 5 steps. What you're saying is take a
Mm-hmm.
pause,
Mm-hmm.
take a breath,
Yeah.
your heart starts speaking to you,
Yeah.
write it out, and then express it.
Yes, and actually there's one in between. I like to ask myself the question, especially if what I'm doing is for someone else, right? Like a customer or a person I'm going to meet that day. I ask, what is the best thing, what is the best feeling they could have at the end of our conversation or at the end of our meeting? And
Mm,
start to imagine ripple effects. And what's the best thing that can happen in their life because they met me today? And allow
mm.
myself to go, well, they could, you know, have more courage in their life the next time they speak to their boss, and that will then change, and that will help them, you know, whatever. And just go. And
Wonderful.
once you start doing that, you get used to imagining things for other
I
people.
can imagine. I can imagine that once you start practicing, it's like flexing
Mm,
a muscle, right? It's like
yeah.
practicing a muscle and then you take it from there. Wonderful. Thank you so
Mhm.
much,
You're
Claire.
welcome.
We're gonna take it to Juliette, and I would love to introduce Juliette. Juliette Noske works in the world of personal development and transformation as an intuitive coach and a spiritual mentor. She is a sacred space holder, teacher, and guide for both young people and adults. She supports people on their journey of self-mastery as they awaken to their power within where the gold is. And I absolutely love that. So, Juliette, take it away.
Hi there. So, I would like to just invite you to take a moment, and for everyone out there who's listening, to just either close your eyes or look downwards and bring your awareness onto your breath. And I invite you to not need to change anything, but simply observe how your breath is. I know that for myself, for example, I can feel my heart beating, and my breath is maybe a little bit more quick than it normally is because I've got the excitement of coming on here and speaking to everyone. Maybe you're feeling quite relaxed and comfortable depending on where you're sitting. And then I invite you to take in 3 really deep breaths. And as you exhale, as you open your mouth and create a kind of a sigh. So we're not tensing the muscles around the jaw and the mouth. We're actually opening the mouth slightly. And you know, when you take that kind of deep, gentle sigh, so deep inhale and exhaling with that sigh. And then one more time. This time, maybe make a little sound as well. Fantastic. And when you're ready, just gently opening your eyes. So we're so used to being up in our head, and this kind of takes us out of our body a lot of the time. And a lot of the work that I do helps and supports people to bring them back into their body. And when we're working with the intuition, especially, this is really important. Because if we have something that we want to achieve, a goal or a dream or something like that, often we'll get caught up in how. And the how can be a real challenge. You know, if there's something that we want to do and it costs a lot of money, we might think, oh, well, I can't afford it. I don't have enough money. If there is, you know, some huge audacious dream that we have, we might be thinking about that and thinking, you know, it's impossible for me. It's far too big. You know, I don't know the right people, or I don't have a big enough space to hold something like this, or I don't have enough time. And when we're working with the intuition, the magic happens when you let go of the how. And so I was brought up in a single parent family, and so we didn't have a lot of money. And a common story that was playing for me, and as I speak this story, maybe, you know, something will resonate for you and you'll recognize some of the patterns that play out in your life. Yeah. So one of my stories was that there's never enough. And it was always proven right to me that there was never enough. We weren't allowed to touch anything in the fridge because in case it was for dinner, because there wasn't enough. And my mum paid the deposit for the school trip when I was in secondary school, and then had to tell me that we had to pull out because she couldn't afford it because there wasn't enough. And I constantly gathered evidence that there wasn't enough. And so that was one of my stories. And sometimes we have these stories and we collect this evidence, and it becomes so strong that we believe that that is our reality. And so when our intuition is guiding us to do something that is out of the boundaries of that limitation, it can seem completely impossible. Now, for whatever reason, my life guided me to become a drama teacher after going to university, which I never expected, you know, university. And then I started listening, because sometimes the universe sends you messages, and it sends you one, and it sends you two, and then it sends you more. So I heard someone, while I was a drama teacher working around London, speak about Japan and teaching English in Japan. Then another person mentioned going to Japan. And then a third person mentioned a program in Japan where you could go and teach English. And so I said, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. I'm going to listen. And so I did. And so I inquired. The program's called the JET program, Japanese Exchange Teaching Program. And I applied to that program and I went there. And it really was my, you know, my intuition and my messages that guided me, the universe guiding me. And I went through the whole application process, which is actually absolutely amazing, very challenging. And I got onto the program and went there and worked. And people often say that I'm very lucky, but what I've realized is that I've made certain life choices that have taken me on a particular path. And we're all lucky in our own way. And we all have these opportunities that come into our lives for us. And then it's whether we choose to grab hold of them, to listen to the intuitive call, to listen to the messages. And maybe as you're listening, you can recognize some of the patterns or some of the messages that you've received, or some of the intuitive whispers that you've heard, maybe that you've listened to, or maybe at some points where you look back and you think, oh, I should have listened to that message. And so off I went to Japan, and I worked there for 3 years. It was an amazing program. I would have stayed longer, possibly. And then having saved up money while I was there, because I didn't have to pay for my accommodation, I paid off all my student loans in the first year. And in the second 2 years, I saved up, carried on sending the same money home. And I ended up with £10,000 in the bank. And I went traveling around the world for 2 years without working, which was a bit like being a wealthy person with an income coming in from parents. It was rather amazing and a huge eye-opening experience. And so why do I tell you this story? Well, as I said, there's lots of messages in here for us. And when we're talking about the intuition, we really want to listen to those messages. And it might be the universe that's sending us messages along the way. And it might be that we're, you know, getting whispers from our own intuition. Another thing when we're working with the intuition, and trying to or intending to manifest something is to act as if. So I don't know if anyone has heard this principle. For example, if you want to achieve something and it seems very far away, maybe in the future, you bring it into the now, and not only do you express gratitude, but you also act as if you already have this place. For example, when I moved to live in Spain and I was looking for a home, I had a sense of emergency and timing that I needed to move in somewhere in a particular time. And literally the day before I was supposed to move into place, I found this really lovely place. The day before I was supposed to move into it, there were complications. But before I even found it, I was looking all over the place, and I had no idea if I was going to be able to find something within the time frame that I wanted to. And I had to go back to England for a while before moving into somewhere. And so it was Christmas. I went home. I was helping my mum with some online Christmas shopping, and I saw these stone statues of elephants that were candle holders. And I thought, right, I'm going to act as if I'm going to buy these for my home, even though I had no idea where that home would be, if I would find it, when it was going to come about. And so I bought these stone statues, which when they arrived, they were rather large, a lot larger and heavier than I realized. And I only had hand luggage, but luckily they fit in. And I got back to Spain, and as I said, the lady found somewhere, but it was the day before I was about to move in, and they pulled out. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Luckily, a friend offered me to stay at theirs and move all of my stuff in there. And then it was about a week or two later, on a Sunday, I didn't even know the lady worked on a Sunday. She called me up and she said, I've found another place. Do you want to come and have a look? I was like, when? She's like, now. And so off I went. And lo and behold, it was even better than the other place. And this is another lesson when you're manifesting something and listening to the intuition. Sometimes the universe, spirit, knows best, and you have to trust the process. And so that first place obviously wasn't meant to be for me. It wasn't meant for me. And in fact, the owners of the other house became really good friends of mine, a bit like a Spanish mother and father, and really good friends as well. And so it's really trusting the process. And even, like they say, the darkest moment is before the dawn. And so when it seems like nothing's happening, or you've hit rock bottom, or you're struggling, it's in that moment having that super trust and faith that you will come out of it in the other end. So
I love that. I love that, Juliette. It's such a beautiful story. It's so amazing what you said about trusting your intuition. And I love the act as if practice, because I think that's really powerful, that we can really start practicing our intuition. Now, you said something really crucial about trusting, the deep trust of your intuition. When you're used to using your head instead of your intuition, how would you say, what would be a first step to start trusting the intuition? What would be a good thing to do?
well, you could, for example, do little practices like, a really common one that people often talk about is asking for a parking space. And I mean, that's developing your trust, I guess, in spirit and in the universe. Yeah. But trusting that there will be that space for you if you ask, and then you trust, and it's there. also, I would say it's like anything, it's a muscle. It's a muscle. So you don't just go to the gym once a week or once a month. Well, once a week is good, but 3 times a week, and then your muscles will build a lot faster.
Even better.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So building your intuition is, and your relationship with your intuition is like strengthening a muscle. And so the more you practice it, the more you will be able to listen to it. And often the intuition is more of a soft whisper, especially in the beginning. And the head, the monkey mind, can be quite loud. And so one practice that you can do, and you can do it with smaller things if you feel uncomfortable doing it with bigger things, is as soon as you get that intuitive whisper, act on it.
Yeah, that's so powerful that we really need to act on it, because it whispers only once, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing. So we need to act on it. So let's go into the breakout rooms, because you have a beautiful question prepared for us. So the question is, and we're going to talk about this in the breakout rooms, what would your 80-year-old self speak about at your 80th birthday party in thanks for all that you've done? That's an interesting question, right? So what would your 80-year-old self speak about at your 80th birthday party in thanks for all that you've done?